social media erupt with conspiracy theories after US TV network C-SPAN broadcast RT's newsfeed for an entire 10 minutes, even though the American Public Affairs Network says it was due to an internal routing issue. We apply guidelines on spotting so-called fake news to articles claiming Russia has compromising material on President-elect Donald Trump. And Wikileaks founder Julian Assange says he will agree to being extradited to the US if Obama releases military whistleblower Chelsea Manning. Hello there, it's 5 p.m. here in Moscow. You're watching RT International with me, Nikki Aaron. Welcome to the programme. Our top story this hour. Mainstream and social media have been flooded with conspiracy theories. That's after US TV network C-SPAN was suddenly interrupted by a broadcast of this very channel for an entire 10 minutes. Coverage of proceedings in the House of Representatives was replaced by RT's newsfeed. Well, for more on this, I'm now joined live in the studio by RT's Miguel Francis Santiago. Over to you, Miguel.
Thanks, Nikki. Well, you know, it's good to feel powerful. People are scared of clandestine powers and constantly fear your next move.
With a bill that would basically take our cop on the block, the SEC, and literally obliterate.
10 minutes of Kremlin propaganda in the middle of a cable feed. Everyone spooked. Politicians, including the speaker who was on at the time.
While I'm on the floor of the House talking about Trump and Russia, I get interfered with and interrupted by Russia Today. It's strange. It's odd.
Surprised C-SPAN was interrupted by RT, the Kremlin-backed TV network. I thought that doesn't happen until Jan 20th.
The internet.
This is no accident. We are obviously in a cyber war with Russia.
Why does this give me the serious creeps?
In any other year, I'd assume someone at C-SPAN hit the wrong button. But in 2017, who knows?
The channel says it's an internal routing issue. You know, when you push the wrong button. But they're going to investigate the matter thoroughly. Maybe, though, it's just that the Congresswoman mentioned Russia, because whenever you do, something bad happens.
Mike Pompeo, the CIA director, almost swearing that they're going to be hardliners on Russia, 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 on Russia.
So who's going to investigate that?
The Intelligence Committee's assessment that Russia, at the direction
Just after the incoming CIA director uttered the word Russia, the lights went off. Scary stuff.
Did he then disappear? I have seen this act before in Vegas.
Electricity grid hacked?
Putin.
But then who was behind this?
They were probably sent here so that we put them in our jails. Because to put them in our jails, they didn't pay the electric bill. To put them, oh, I like that much better.
Now, surely the U.S. would want revenge. Is this the CIA at work?
Each of you can be tracked by intelligence. All the information you transfer can be in the NSA's files.
Looks like we've now reached the point where coincidences are no longer possible. Nothing is random. Evil Russian spies and propaganda are always to blame. But hang on. Maybe people sometimes just push the wrong button and power grids get overloaded. Miguel Francis Santiago, RT.
Okay, Miguel, well, thanks for that vivid look at the details of this story. RT's Miguel Francis Santiago, thanks again. We can now go live to our guest, Adam Gary, author of the Duran online news outlet. Mr. Gary, good to see you. Do you share the suspicions of some members of the public over the incident?
No more than I did when, in November of last year, during a CNN broadcast in the east coast of America, the normal news was replaced by hardcore pornographic videos, even though when it comes to CNN, one could be forgiven, as a lot of CNN reporters talk out of their nether regions. It was clearly a technical mix-up. Someone pushed button A instead of button B, but I do think it's a bit of a welcome relief in a week that was filled with deeply disturbing news and very disturbing conspiracy theories from people who are supposedly in positions of credibility. This is just a bit of a joke, and I think it ought to be taken that way by anyone who considers themselves even remotely serious.
If it was just an innocent mix-up, why do you think we saw the reaction that we did to what happened?
Oh, because these people are programmed to think anything to do with Russia, and in terms of media, anything to do with RT is instantaneously sinister, conspiratorial, or mysterious. I wish RT were as magical as they say it is. I happen to watch it and participate in various RT programming because I find it informative and I find the analysis interesting. Maybe, who knows, next year you could talk to the programming director about putting on a magic show, because it seems that many in the mainstream media and many in Washington already think that that's what RT is, even though, sadly, for them, it isn't.
What do you think the chances are that this incident could be used against Russia later, despite what C-SPAN says? I mean, after all, we've previously seen how some high-ranking US officials have made serious accusations against Russia without any concrete evidence.
If we were living in a saner age, I would say that it would be almost impossible for this slight and short technical mix-up to be understood to be anything else. But because we're living in this sort of weird age, what John Kerry might call a parallel universe, it wouldn't surprise me. I would never underestimate the stupidity of the Western elites to say that some guy who's probably 17 years old and an intern at a cable station presses the wrong button and the internet feed temporarily goes from one thing to another. It reminds me of a few years ago there was a rough landing of a Korean Airlines jet in San Francisco, and one of the interns of the local news station changed the name of the crew to sort of pantomime joke names in mock Korean. There was one that was called We Too Low, something silly and a bit stupid like that. So I'm sure this was just that. Maybe the guy who switched the television cable or whatever it is from C-SPAN to RT thought it was a joke, and the bigger joke is that if these elite who are so frightened of RT will actually take it seriously.
It really does seem that practically anything that goes wrong in the world now, the fingers are pointed right at Russia. Just a recent example, a columnist from the New York Times tweeted about hesitating to open a box he got from Poland or Russia. It turned out to be something he ordered himself. Why do you think Russia has become the obvious culprit, the obvious bogeyman in any situation?
Well, because according to the Western mainstream media, Russia's capable of hacking US elections. Russia's going to invade half of Europe whenever Putin feels like it. Russia, along with China, has taken over all of Asia, and the next president of the United States is a Russian puppet. What a load of rubbish. Of course Russia's a strong nation, so is the United States, and they can either be friendly or hostile, and the people who voted for Donald Trump voted for friendly, not hostile, so let's get on with it.
Mr. Adam Gary, author of the Duran online news outlet, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, pointing the finger at Russia has become popular amid the current fake news craze, and now California is trying to pass a fake news act, which, if passed, would make it mandatory for schools to teach kids how to spot made-up stories. Our correspondent Murad Gazdiev has more.
A Stanford study has found youngsters having a hard time doing so. They described people's inability to reason, to think about things they see on the internet. They described it as bleak. They're too trusting, would you believe? But it's not just the kids. Oh, no. Let's take CNN and BuzzFeed. The first to break this sensational, I wouldn't call it a story, but let's take it through the test. 1. The source, is it legit or is it dubious? an anonymous British former secret agent who is now on the run fearing Russia and whose reports contain clear falsehoods. 2. Where did this document come from? Well, it was paid for entirely by Trump's political opponents and came from that secret agent. 3. Is it sensational? So vivid that you want to believe it without questioning it? Yeah. CNN's anonymous sources among secret agents verified their report about another anonymous secret agent.
You've got this raw information, this complete ridiculous fake news. Actually, it's just fake. It's not
actually
even
been
news.
backed up by not only multiple sources, but other news agencies, New York Times,
Okay,
Washington.
well, you're just, I'm surprised you
So
just
go
want to
ahead.
argue with me. It has not been backed up by credible news sources. You're linking to the BuzzFeed report. You
We're
guys
not linking to the BuzzFeed
updated,
report.
It's mentioned in here. I'm looking at the updated CNN report. I read it right before we came on air. And absolutely, you know, people are going to, why did you run a story? Why run a story based on anonymous sourcing that now has been rebutted about a 2-page appendix?
Embarrassing that. Still, everyone's jumping onto the fake news bandwagon. NGOs too. They're coming out with things like their own lists of questions that must be asked in order to tell whether news is real or not. And earlier today, one of our bright producers decided to take the US intelligence report itself through the fake news test. This is going to be good. Question number 1. Are you intensely hoping that the information turns out to be true? False? Well, given that the report was funded entirely by Trump's political opponents, they were probably hoping it was true. Question number 2. Does the headline use excessive punctuation or all capital letters for emphasis? Check on that one. All capital letters and bolded for good measure. Question number 3. Does it make a claim about containing a secret or telling you something that the media doesn't want you to know? Check. It's plastered with confidential stamps. It's apparently leaked, highly sensitive. No end to CNN talking about their secret agent sources. Question number 4. Is this information designed for easy sharing, like a meme? Well, it's so sensational, it's literally sickening. Trump, call girls, graphic descriptions of depraved sexual acts, the Kremlin, and secret agents with hidden cameras. Yeah, it's intended to make a splash all right, and do the rounds. Anyway, enough. It failed on even more points. Isn't it ironic that the very report itself has failed a fake news test? So, really, we've reached a new level here. We now have fake news about fake news. Boy, is this escalating?
Former British MP and host of RT's Sputnik show, George Galloway, says nowadays it's hard to believe any of the reports coming from the Western media.
Yes, I'm all in favour of people triple-checking the news that the mass media feeds them on a daily basis. And most of the so-called mainstream media would fail the test. Frankly, you can no longer believe anything that you hear in the Western media. Question everything, even RT. Question more. Whatever you're watching all the time, watch a little less of it and try something else instead. Because it's abundantly clear now, and this mass hysteria puts the tin hat on it. It's abundantly clear that these media outlets don't exist to illuminate or educate or inform the public. They exist to serve a political agenda.
More news coming up after this short break.